Hey, this is Benjamin Nelson, your Season 7 WSSR Cup champion. I'd like to give a thanks to Roasted Gems Coffee, Trophy Smack, all the admins at WSSR, Snowy Desert Racing, everybody that tunes in to the Freaky Fast broadcast every week, including my family and friends, co-workers as well. And I am so honored to be able to hoist this beautiful trophy. I've never been more proud to be a champion.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Freaky Fast Broadcasting on your Wednesday night for the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series. Tonight, for the Season 8 playoffs, we dwindled the playoff field down once again. Last week was the start of the round of 11. Tonight, we go from 11 to 6. The Championship 6 drivers will be placed and set. And tonight, they get to test their skills at Kentucky Speedway. It's a legacy course, and they get to figure out, can they hold on to this brilliant track that drivers love to race on for the Trophy Smack 225 at Legacy, Kentucky. We're excited to give you all the coverage again here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. Joining me up in the booth is going to be Justin Malarkey. Justin, last week we got to see the stellar finish of seeing Benjamin Nelson and Zach Hall go back and forth, but ultimately it was Nelson getting the win. Tonight, only driver locked in is Ben Nelson because of that win. Everyone else still mathematically could be knocked out or put in to our Championship 6.
The fact that no one's safe besides Nelson means that it's going to be a really exciting race tonight at Kentucky. But mentioning Nelson, driver who's been heating up lately, getting a couple wins here in the final few races of the season, really trying to make himself become the favorite when he gets into that final round coming up here shortly.
Heating up, but in other hands, you could say getting sloppy in moments. I mean, last week, Zach Hall and as well for Benjamin Nelson, they ran into one another when Nelson missed a pit stop. Nelson's also been caught up in some odd pit strategy calls. Tonight, he needs to get back on that main track of a flawless race, and tonight could be the main attraction. He's been the fastest during practice. As we go down to trackside, we can test and see where the drivers will qualify here tonight, as the field just got done with practice, and the fastest driver from practice, I think with no surprise, is Benjamin Nelson. But the second fastest is going to be Brian McCann, Nick Crawford. Next three drivers, those are going to be those to watch out for qualifying. And of those three, Nick Crawford, actually, who was third fastest in practice, actually has already gotten a pole at this track of Legacy, Kentucky. Back in Season 1, they ran here at Legacy, Kentucky, and in Season 6, they raced the Modern Kentucky in Season 3. So only 3 times have they ran at this course, but this variant of the course, only 2 times. And looking to see who's going to get themselves into victory lane, as Nelson having a little bit of a slip up, getting ready for that first lap. We'll have to come to a stop, halt, and Nelson will reset and get back out there on course and try again to start lap number 1. As we take a look at Ryan Kelly in the 3 machine, ripping and rolling, gonna stay high to set up for the second lap.
Staying high right there, gonna cut it down low, trying to get that run coming out of the corner. Able to keep it off the wall right there. Unfortunately, Nelson was not able to, like we saw there about a moment ago. That might hurt him. Sam, I'm not sure if he got across that line to maybe start his first lap, so something we're definitely going to have to keep an eye out is, did his nose cross that line, and will that count as the first lap already starting?
Yeah, because if iRacing deems that started the first lap, then he's only going to have 1 lap for qualifying left. But before the drivers are starting their first lap and just completing their first, it's going to be Brian McCann in the 8 machine with a 30.959. That's going to be very close to almost the fastest lap even during practice. These drivers find a little bit of extra speed for the cooler temperatures. They will be driving fully under the lights once this race goes green. as the 3 machine of Ryan Kelly currently second on the board. About a 10th off of Brian McCann. Found a little bit more speed. Some of the drivers that are hoping to find that extra momentum. Talked about Nelson being the favorite to watch out for. Takes the top of the board in his first lap, no surprise. And for Kelly, big wiggle for the 3. Might be losing a little bit of touch on the speed off the exit and cuts the grass. Tried every small way to find an advantage, but because of touching the grass, that second lap will be invalidated. And Kelly will stick with 4th place for now with a 31.084 for their lap. One driver that's been very good here in the past, watch out for Larry Yingling. Last year ever win at this course back in season 6. Now, back in that season, running a completely different car than these Gen 4 Cup cars. So I'm curious if Yingling can kind of find that extra speed. As a 67, hoping to find themselves in the victory lane. No longer in the playoffs is Yingling, but trying to play a little bit of spoiler for drivers that are in a must-win scenario.
Definitely a driver that can, for sure, play the spoiler tonight. We've seen speed throughout the 67 machine all season long, so would not be surprised if he got up there and was able to take the win. And speaking of SM, look at that. Drops it down into a 30.869 to take the pole.
First driver to hit a 30.8. Even during practice, no one got that fast. And Yingling going to be 600ths of a second faster than Nelson, and that's only on the first lap. Trying to find a little bit of extra speed on the second. Looks like these drivers, though, that first lap is their go lap, scrubbing off the wall, hoping that's not going to invalidate the time. As Cameron Sarton in the 99, driver that's taking it easy on the first lap, was a 31.8 second down. That's a full second slower than Yingling, but hoping to have a better jump on the second lap as the 99 go with a different approach than everyone else in the field, and hoping for a big come up, and it will not be as big as the 99 was hoping for. Going to be just 14th on the board now. One of our drivers, though, outside looking in. First driver outside looking in. It's going to be Shane Tarian in the 9 machine. Hoping to see if this lap time is going to be fast enough for the pole, and it will not. Fast enough for 3rd, though. And up being that high up on the board might be just enough to get Tarian into the championship 6. A driver that's in the most comfortable position but not locked in. Zach Hall just missing out on his win last week, and just by a corner, finding himself almost in victory lane. Zach's hoping for a win here tonight, continue on his momentum the last 2 weeks of good finishes, but it's going to be 5th on the board for Zach Hall.
Qualifying is going to be coming to an end here. We're under 10 seconds, no drivers on track. So that's going to do it. We're going to be getting here racing really shortly. We're going to have about 5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes of warm up. But these drivers, what do you think they're going to have to be focusing on here, Sam? It looks like we saw these drivers right here. You saw live coming out of the corner. Turn 4 was giving guys problems. They were getting up there, slapping the wall and coming across the infield of the track. That could create chaos in the first couple laps if someone gets up there in the front half of the field. And before you know it, there could be a pretty big accident.
Yeah, I think these drivers are going to be focusing a lot on their tires here tonight, and also track position is going to be the key. Don't want to be around other drivers, and being up front is going to be the best spot of comfortability for yourself. But we'll touch more on how the drivers want to tackle this track, because first, we got to take a look at the points, because they're close, and tonight, being a cutoff race, they matter the most to see who will be running for a championship. In your point standings, top of the board is Benjamin Nelson, but he's already locked in after his win last week at Iowa. But the next driver in line, Zach Hall, top of drivers that are needing to point their way in with plus 15. Kyle Rochelle going to be plus 11. Now, Kyle Rochelle, Zach Hall, because they're both in the double digits, feeling a lot more comfortable into tonight's race. Drivers that are less comfortable going to be just 7 points over the cut line as Brian P. Johnson. Ken Campbell is just 4 points over the cut line. And your bubble driver, going to be Brian McCann, just plus 3 over Shane Tarian. Tarian going to be the first driver out, just behind by 3 points. Cedric Hunter behind by 4 points. Nick Crawford down by 9 points. And then 2 drivers that are, there's enough drivers to point your way in, but practically in must-win scenarios, Christopher Norris, Cody Reed. Norris down 16 points, Reed down 17 points. If they want their Cinderella stories to continue on, they're going to need a good race here tonight.
And I would expect those drivers to do everything they can to get max points, like you mentioned. They still have a chance to get in on points, but getting the win is going to be the most important. That's going to be the easiest way to advance there with Benjamin Nelson. You'll be in green, advance instantly. Won't have to worry about the points if you get that win. But what you're going to have to do is probably try and stay out, lead a lap, maybe try and go longer on tires. try and get that lap led. If you could get the most laps led, that'll be another point there. But it'll be interesting with those guys towards the end of the cutoff, what they're going to do, how they're going to try and get to the front.
Yeah, and you just talked about those are the two only ways you can get bonus points. An auto lock into the next round is with a win if you're those 11 drivers still battling for a championship. Now we're going to take a look at our schedule because it's been an amazing season so far, Justin. I mean, we have already ran 15 races this season, but counting tonight, our final 3, the season's coming to a conclusion. It's wild to think that the season started all the way back in November, but we're here in March, heading into April. It's the championship run that we're about to be entering in with tonight at Legacy, Kentucky. Then we head to Charlotte and Kansas for the championship round starting next week.
Starting next week, when we get to Charlotte and Kansas, we're going to have those back-to-back mile-and-a-half tracks, which is really going to separate what these drivers have been racing in the last couple races. We've been with Kentucky tonight, Iowa, Phoenix beforehand, Darlington. Haven't been on a mile-and-a-half in quite some time, back in week 7 with Vegas. So looking forward to seeing what's going to happen in these final few races, being at these 1.5-mile tracks for the final 2.
We've seen a long list of drivers that have gotten pulls, wins. It's been an incredible season, like we said. With a driver that's won the most, Benjamin Nelson, going to be the favorite to watch out for, trying to go back-to-back in championships. But with a minute and a half left in warm-ups before these drivers take the green, Justin, this is it for some of these drivers. For the likes of Cody Reed, Christopher Norris, that are practically in a must-win scenario, the mentality for those drivers got to be so different from what everyone else is thinking coming into tonight.
They're going to have to be on that strategy of if the caution comes out and the leaders pit, they might have to stay out and try and take that track position and hopefully fend off everyone behind them, especially if it's late in the race. I think you're in that strategy where you have to do the opposite of what the front half's doing if you're not up there. But we know those guys do have speed. If they could get up there and get that track position, they could hold off guys, especially if this track doesn't widen out. You know, it's Legacy, Kentucky. Maybe some people aren't going to be used to it. Maybe they're more used to the regular Kentucky version. So it could be presenting a little bit of challenge in itself tonight when we're at this Legacy, Kentucky track.
This track's a little bit wider than what they deal with the current configuration of Kentucky, so they got a little bit more space to work with, some banking as well. It's going to be kind for these drivers to try to carry as much speed as possible, but for those drivers that are, you know, less than double digits, that are going to be right on top of one another, like the driver that's 4th to 9th in points, that window of Brian Johnson, Ken Campbell, Brian McCann, those drivers are inside our top 6. And then you have Shane Terry and Cedric Hunter and Nick Crawford, the 3 drivers that are outside of our top 6. They're going to have to think big picture into every moment of this race, thinking about, okay, leading the laps is going to be crucial. Leading the most laps might maybe for some a little bit outside the window, but it's all about the finish of this race. You got to be as high up as possible because the positions on track is where you're going to be gaining and losing the most points.
Definitely, and it's going to be all about those points, trying to maximize it. But like we mentioned at the top, win and you're going to be in. As we see right now, these drivers are getting ready to grid, so we're going to have about 2 more minutes before we get to the pace lap and getting on this race started. And we're going to find out exactly what these drivers in the front half and back half have planned for their strategy to get the most points.
Who's ready for some great racing action? I know we are. For the Trophy Smack 225 Pole Award winner for tonight's race goes to the 67 of Larry Yingling, the last driver to win this race back in season 6. Second on the front row is going to be the 79 of Benjamin Nelson, the only driver that's locked into our championship round. Shane Tarian, Brian McCann, the 2 bubble drivers that are going to be trying to figure out who's in or out, going to be in the second row. Zach Hall, Brian P. Johnson, veterans of this series, trying to go for their championship. For Zach, his first championship. For Brian, he's trying to go for his second championship. 7th will be Ryan Kelly. 8th, we find Nick Crawford. Ollie Fonseca going to be in 9th. To finish out our top 10, it's the 13 of Cedric Hunter.
And rolling up 11th going to be Bryson Hicksonbaugh, and 12th going to be John Forbes Jr., 13th Christopher Norris and Anthony Gaudio, 14th. 15th going to be Ken Campbell, 16th going to be Cameron Sarton, 17th rolling off Cody Reed, who we saw going to have to get max points tonight. Alongside him going to be Christopher Wade in 18th, 19th going to be James Coffin, and 20th going to be Douglas Newbiggie, 21st going to be Ben Kinney and James Heater alongside him, and finish on our last row going to be Brian Noel in 23rd and Chris Stitz in 24th.
Starting in the end of the line with some penalties for drivers, going to be seeing drivers at the end of the line for themselves of Brian Noel, and Benjamin Nelson. Nelson with some over-aggressive driving, deemed to be out of control. So the 79 will have to drop to the end of the line. It's going to be moving up the 8 machine of Brian McCann, and everyone that's on the outside row able to move up a position. So it's going to be a different front row when they take the green, but a couple of drivers have to start further on back. How will we see Nelson work through the field, or will we find ourselves with a driver that's in a must-win scenario able to get into victory lane? Thank you so much for joining with us. Pace car makes the hard left-hander to pit road. Who's making the championship 6? Let's find out. 150 laps. We will not be having a stage caution, no fast repair, and the field is ready and set for us to go green. Yingling, McCann, roar down into turn number 1.
Turn number 1, and they're going to stay side by side. These drivers are going to also go down to the bottom, give each other space though. Not too on top of one another yet, as they're going to come out of the corner. Still 2 by 2, not getting single file yet. As you see the 9 now, he pulls up to 32, still alongside the 74, Nick Crawford going into turn 3.
Going to be your top 2, Larry Yingling and McCann. They try pulling away, middle of the field though. Going to be stats 2 by 2. On to be 3 wide now as Ryan Kelly bounces it to the inside groove. Zach Hall stuck in the middle. Up top is going to be the 11 of John Forbes, and behind them they were 3 wide for a quick second. Ollie Fonseca, Bryson Hickson-Bott, and Gaudio getting a little bit mixy as Larry Yingling will lead lap number 1. Again, driver to watch out for, Benjamin Nelson, starting in the back for the 79. Qualified second. How fast will the 79 work his way forward? Because the last couple of times we've seen him back in traffic, it's been a troublesome spot of the 79, kind of having, knowing his braking zones and where he feels comfortable on track, but working around slower drivers seems to be an issue sometimes for Ben to keep his nose out of trouble.
He's definitely going to have to make sure he doesn't heat up these tires too much trying to pass these guys in the beginning. Expect to see him maybe take it easy for these first couple laps, but he has moved up a little bit here from the starting position at 21st, so able to get by 3 cars so far, but right now probably doesn't want to risk burning up everything too soon in this run. Only being lap 3, maybe by lap 10, 15, expect to see him start picking off, maybe one at a time. It'll be into that top 10 before we know it, I'm sure, Stan.
Certainly will. Another driver to watch out for just in front of the 79s. The 38 of Christopher Norris in 19th position, and Cody Reed in this 52. Both in similar situations, being multiple positions with only 24 drivers out on track. It's still mathematically possible for them to point their way in to the championship round, but they need a lot of help of drivers having mistakes, such as the likes of Brian McCann, or seeing Ken Campbell, Brian P. Johnson. One of those drivers really fall off, and as well have their other competition of Shane Terry and Cedric Hunter and Nick Crawford also having struggling race. So far, all the drivers that need to struggle for Christopher Norris and for Cody Reed running perfectly at this moment.
Saw a little twitch there out of Douglas Newbigin coming out of the corner. Just getting a little loose, but able to gather up, no problems really. But just a little small twitch. Just luckily able to catch it though. But look at right in front of him, 32 car. We were speaking about him last week getting that second place finish. Almost had that win. If he got the win, he wouldn't have to worry about tonight. But right now, being stuck in the middle of the field, he's got to be super cautious. Doesn't want to risk having any issue there and giving up those early points. And as we mentioned him, you see right in front of Cedric Hunter, guy right there on the cutoff line. He needs to get all the points he can to move up throughout this night.
Big thing for Zach Hall, because of where some of these drivers are running currently. Hall can just finish in 15th, 14th, or 13th and feel pretty comfortable. But as long as Hall finishes inside the top 12, he's automatically locked into the championship round. So for Zach Hall, that's going to be the mentality as well for Ryan Kelly in the 3. As long as Ryan Kelly finishes inside of our top 8, the 3 machine will be moving on automatically to the championship round. So those are the positions I talked about. Big picture for some drivers. Those are the big pictures that those 2 at least are looking for in our beginning portions of this race. Only 7 laps in of 150. It's a lot of racing we're going to be seeing here tonight. And as well, just in the fuel window, it's going to be very close if these drivers want to turn this race into a 2-stop, or they might just automatically turn this race into a 3-stop, as the fuel window going to be 45 to 48 laps these drivers are going to be working with.
So that will be interesting. Will someone try and stretch it to 50 and make it a 2-stop race like you mentioned? They would have to commit to rolling through the corners, getting into that clutch a little bit, trying to stay off the gas, maybe about 90% throttle down the straightaway. But being about lap 8, I don't know if these drivers are thinking about it yet, but it is something that they want to keep in their back pocket, Sam, because look at this race now. It's not really too close. It's a little bit spread out, so that means less chance of a caution. As you mentioned, no competition caution tonight.
And one driver going to be sitting in pit road for a long time. James Kaufman in the 25 machine was supposed to start in pit road for today's race, did not, and now is placed in a holding black flag penalty. Has just got finished with 40-second hold. And the 25 is about to get back out on track, but it's going to be starting this race off 2, maybe even 3 laps down, as 23 drivers on the lead lap after that mishap by the 25. Going to leave us in a position where these drivers up front, and that's another point that kind of is taken away with the amount of drivers that are struggling at this moment to get their way moving forward. But Nick Crawford in the 74, currently in 8th place, you see on screen, racing around Bryson Hicksonbaugh in the 3 of Ryan Kelly. Not a bad place to be for these drivers. And again, Nick Crawford, every point is so crucial, being 9 points out from the good. Now that's compared to Brian Kelly, 10 points off of Ken Campbell. And then for it's going to be for Nick Crawford, going to be a total of 13 points off of Brian P. Johnson. So there's a lot of work for Crawford if he wants to outpoint some of his competition that are out there on track.
Crawford's going to go from 8th to 10th in that corner. Those two guys are able to get around him on the outside, so we are seeing that second lane have some speed up there. Drivers are able to get up there and be able to pinch the cars down on the inside. As you see the 74 come way low, give all the room to the driver on the outside. As you mentioned, right now he's got points on his line, does not want to risk having any issue, giving drivers plenty of space, knowing it only is lap 12. There's still a lot that can happen. If we get some late race restarts, a lot can happen. So biggest thing, Sam, you've got to get there at the end of the race to have a chance. You've got to be there, be on the lead lap, and have a chance to fight for that win.
Now going to be slotting himself up to 18th place and racing on ground lap track. Who's down at Benjamin Nelson. Here's another battle that's going on for 6th position. Ollie Fonseca and Bryson Hicksonbaugh, and both drivers that are no longer in the playoffs. But, you know, for Bryson Hicksonbaugh, just missing out from taking his Las Vegas win to automatically lock him into the next round. Ollie Fonseca knocked out after the first round, and now going to be forcing some of these drivers that were hoping for some big points going to be slotting themselves moving forward as quickly as possible, as one of our playoff drivers really struggling at this moment. Christopher Norris in the 38, back in 22nd position, racing with Ben Keeney, and these two drivers racing for the last driver on the lead lap. 10 seconds off, now almost 11 seconds off of Larry Yingling, and talked about trying something different from what our leaders are doing. I know based off of practice, Christopher Norris was really off the pace by over about a half a second, but might be going with that different strategy we were talking about of maybe trying to turn this race into a 2-stop.
Yeah, he might just be doing what you said. Maybe he's just trying to, he is 11 seconds off. That could be hard to make up that time, but one of the best ways to make it up is not be on pit road as often as the other drivers up front. So if he is going on that strategy, maybe he's just going to lift a little bit, try and not lose too much time, but still save that little bit of gas each lap. If he's able to get to lap 50, then he'll feel really confident about getting to 100 and then not pitting again after that. That could be a strategy that he has in his mind already, as he sees maybe the field getting a little bit spread out, thinking the chance of a caution is getting less likely.
15 laps right now, and we're starting to see our first battle for the lead. It's going to be the 8 machine of Brian McCann slotting himself in front of Larry Yingling, and that's going to be a lap led for the 8, and this is a crucial lap to be led by Brian McCann. That bonus point now going to be given a little bit more of a buffer to work with, and now tying in points with Ken Campbell, as those drivers now will both be tied 4 points over Shane Terrian, and Terrian right now reigning in 5th. Good position for the 9 machine, but this now puts Brian McCann in a spot where now he can try to march and try to go for that most laps led and grab an extra bonus point to work with.
Coming to lap 17, his car just looks really good right now, getting close to being almost halfway through the run. Not quite there yet, but his car really seems to just all of a sudden come to life. As you see, he's now gapped almost a 0.4 of a second lead over Larry Yingling just in a lap and a half there. Just seems like the car gets to the middle of the corner there, Sam, and he's able to gas it up and point it, and the car sticks, and he's able to carry that momentum down these 2 straightaways.
Yeah, looking at some of the drivers on what their pace is looking like from the start of the race to now, a lot of the field, actually some, are putting down their fastest laps because I talked about how important tires are going to be here tonight. Some drivers already were protecting their tires immediately. As we take a look at the weather conditions coming into tonight's race, outside temperature going to be 76 degrees, the track temp at 80 degrees, so that's nice on the tires. Nice for these drivers to have that little bit of extra grip. Wind isn't too bad, it's staying pretty low at 3 miles per hour. The humidity is only at 22%, but these drivers, like you see all the way at the bottom, in sim time, 8 p.m. It's going to get darker and darker as this race progresses. And once it gets fully under nighttime conditions, the lights are already clicked on. We'll see how much that track cools off and how much also that air temperature is going to cool off for the field as McCann trying to pull away. But talking about the tires, the times, Justin, a lot of the field, majority of them in the middle of the field, look to still be protecting their tires even at this moment.
Yeah, with it only being almost lap 20 here, we're expecting them to still get to about 45, 48, maybe 50 laps. Still don't want to risk pushing it too hard, heating those tires up and then struggling, especially with how this track could just be a little bit abrasive, wearing the tires out. The track, we're expecting it to cool off, the sun going down, that should help tire wear, but I think once these guys get that second set of tires on, they'll really know what the track is going to be thrown at them with the temperatures coming down ever so slightly. Plus, it'll rubber up a little bit, which should help tire wear.
Riding on board with the 15, Ken Campbell trying to grab another position to get by Aldo Fonseca. And this position so crucial because now this puts Ken Campbell going to be just 2 positions off of Shane Terrian. And that's going to force Shane Terrian to have to gain a couple of more spots to get ahead of the 15. Because all the drivers, I'm looking at the drivers that came in tonight instead of our top 6. That's Benjamin Nelson, who's already locked in, Zach Hull, Ryan Kelly, Brian P. Johnson, Ken Campbell, and Brian McCann. Majority of those drivers running really well up front or instead of our top 15. The one driver I'm concerned about is Zach Hull, down in 19th position. Currently where these drivers run, Zach Hull actually is right on the cusp of finding himself being bumped out if the race was to finish right now. So this 32 backing off his pace, back in 19th position, but how much is he gonna be worried about if this race continues to go green? Because the last 2 times they've ran at this course, they've only had 1 caution. That was back in season 3. Back in season 6 when they ran this race, 0 cautions were thrown. So got to be careful because this race does traditionally have a low caution count.
I think that is very concerning for Zach Hall. He qualified really well up front. He dropped really quick through the field. Maybe he just didn't want to get back there and maybe not risk getting caught up in an accident and take it really easy on the tires and then make that time up once the field got spread out. But the problem being, coming halfway through this run, Sam, how do you make that time back up? The field's really getting spread out. He's back there 12.1 seconds back is right now. I mean, that's a big amount of time that he gave up. He's going to try and make a move here to the outside around the 17, but not able to get him coming out of that corner. So something we'll have to keep in mind on. But I do want to talk about Benjamin Nelson running in 13th position, the 79 car. He's down to 8.7 seconds. It wasn't long ago that he was over 10 seconds, Sam, and he's passing cars and still gaining time. So he's going to be someone I think we're going to have to be watching. If this race stays green, I still think he has a chance to make that time up, and it would be really fun to bring that information to the viewers tonight.
Yeah, Benjamin Nelson, also Anthony Gaudio, both some of the fastest drivers on track currently, but they're in the middle of the field trying to gain this position back for themselves. So they're running both. Either a 10th faster is going to be Anthony Gaudio, and for Benjamin Nelson, running about 2 to 3 tenths faster than our leaders. So trying to gain all this track time back as much as possible. As we've had our first official DNF of the night, Ben Keeney has called it an evening for the 98 machine. Just didn't feel comfortable out there on track around lap 22, got loose and out of sorts and pulled it into pit road, and now is going to call it a night for the 98. We hate to see that for Ben. Hopefully we'll be seeing it next week as the drivers go to Kansas, as starting to see a little bit more movement all around. Brian McCann up to 2 seconds leading over Brian Johnson, as the movement and battling for second place getting pretty solidified as Larry Yingling is dropping backwards. Other drivers that are hoping to move forwards, it's going to be this 52 Cody Reed trying to make his way forward, already up 6 positions.
6 positions, and that's 6 crucial points. But like you mentioned, with Ben Keeney dropping out, that's 1 less driver out there to potentially get around anyone who does have problems. So then maybe not exactly what Cody Reed was hoping for. He might have been hoping for everyone to stay out here and complete all those laps. And then if someone did have trouble, that would be spots that he could definitely make up and they would lose those points. But right now, with 1 driver 3 laps down and another driver out for the race, that does change the way the points will fall when this race ends.
Yeah, especially for Cody Reed, because of the fact that Brian McCann's up front. He's already led a lap and got that bonus point. Now the gap's grown to 18 seconds is the difference between Cody Reed to Brian McCann and Ken Campbell. Those two drivers are tied at the cutoff bubble spot and trying to move forward as quickly as possible as Reed to place himself in a good spot. And for Cody, I talked to him earlier this week and talking about the point situation coming into this race, and he felt like tonight was going to be practically a must-win scenario if Cody was going to make it to the championship 6. And here tonight, I think he's trying to still run in that form to go for a win. As take a look at the driver of the 63 machine, Bryson Hicksenbach, just outside of our top 5, as he's watching a great battle between Shane Terrian and John Forbes Jr. right against one another. And it's the 9 machine who's pushing forward, and this is exactly what Shane needs to do. Gain these positions while Ken Campbell is going backwards.
It's second place from 6th place battle. They're about the closest on track for a group of 5 cars. Pretty interesting that Brian McCann, though, he was able to get it up to 2.3 second lead once he got around Larry Yingling, who now was passed by Brian P. Johnson, too. So these 3 guys right here, as you see the 9 get a little sideways coming out of the corner, lap 30, the tires are starting to definitely show signs of wear. As you see the 9, he came out of the corner, but he's going to charge back into turn 3 here and try and get under the 11. And they're going to go 3 wide coming through the corner. This is going to be an interesting exit.
3 wide for 3rd place, and it's going to be seeing John Forbes will slide past Larry Yingling. Yingling's just going to continue to watch these 2, Shane Terrian and the 11 of John Forbes, continue their battle side by side for another lap as Shane Terrian trying to slide job his way past the 11 and just drifts up. And Terrian will move into 3rd in a blink of an eye. From 6th to 3rd in just about 4 laps. Terrian is cruising right now in the 9 machine and now has a sight set on Brian P. Johnson. And looking at these drivers, the pace that we're seeing right now, our leader rate at this moment of Brian McCann, let alone everyone else in the field, is running a much slower than the 8 machine at this moment. McCann's running about 1.5 seconds, a little bit over 1.5 seconds slower than his fastest lap that he put down earlier in the race. So these drivers already feeling that major drop off. And Justin, that's giving me signs that we might be seeing this field just automatically switch to that 3-stop strategy.
If they definitely want to get that fresh rubber and get in there and gain that time, if they can gain 1.5 seconds a lap, the 3 pit stops might make up for the time they're going to spend on pit road. But it'll be something that these drivers have to be doing that math while they're out there trying to also drive these cars at 180 miles an hour down the straightaway, seeing if they're able to check their fuel calculators and get on 2 stops or 3 stops, seeing if they be able to gain that time back on the fresh tires. It'll be interesting. It's going to really, we'll find out shortly, Sam. If people start coming into pits around 40, 80, 120, then we know they're going to be doing that 3-stop. But if someone does get to 50, we would expect to see them at 100, and that be it for the rest of the race.
Again, the fuel window we were given was around 45 to 48. They can push it a little bit further if they automatically were focusing on fuel saving. But a lot of these drivers have been pushing up front. I think they're all thinking, okay, we've used up these tires a lot. If you're wanting to gain track position, pitting sooner than later might be the better call as we watch the battle up for 8th place between Ken Campbell, Ollie Fonseca, and it's close. Ollie Fonseca breaking slightly loose off the exit of the corner, and Nick Crawford setting his sights on how do you get by this great duel between the 24 and the 15. And for Ken Campbell, such an under-the-radar driver for majority of the season, and now finding himself with a chance to make the championship 6. What a season it's been, though, Justin. We haven't really talked a lot about Ken Campbell because he's ran practically perfect races of keeping himself out of trouble, but high enough in the field that he's just consistently grabbing so many points compared to the other drivers that maybe are running faster week in and week out, but they can't find that consistency at the end of the race.
He really has been that driver that maybe hasn't gotten as much appreciation and airtime from exactly what we were seeing on track because he's been so under the radar. He's not out there causing issues. Never really see him lose control of the car, not showing up on replays and accidents. But he's just getting the points done, getting what he needs to do. It keeps finishing solid. He has that like Matt Kenseth type mentality of just finishing the races strong, being there at the end. And eventually that's going to pay off where he's going to find himself in victory lane, not once or twice, but multiple times if he's able to keep being up front throughout these races. Eventually he's just going to have a chance and he's going to put together that complete package and pull through and get that big win.
And for Ken Campbell, doesn't want to give up any more positions. Again, just a small bubble of working with just 4 points coming into this night over Shane Terrian, and Terrian in 3rd and Campbell back in 8th. That's just enough for Terrian to bump out Campbell out of the playoffs. And no longer run for a championship, as the next round is our championship 6 for this field. So every point so crucial here this evening. But Brian McCann, I mean, came in tonight as the bubble driver, but right now is Mr. Dominant up front. But he is slowly being caught by Brian P. Johnson in the 28, as his 8 has built out such a gap. Might be a big enough gap that he can hold this lead until the pit cycle begins.
That would be really big for Brian McCann. If he's able to lead any extra laps, that gives him a big chance to potentially lead the most laps and get that extra crucial bonus point. But as you mentioned, it was about 2.4 seconds for Brian P. Johnson, is now hovering around at 2 seconds. You can see 2.08. So if Brian P. Johnson is able to put any more pressure on him and maybe get around him before the pit stops, that would work in Brian P. Johnson's favor for certain. But right now, still hovering around 2.0 seconds off of Brian McCann.
And Brian tonight coming in with a points advantage of 7 points over Shane Terrian, as a large group of drivers hitting pit road. Anthony Gaudio, Cody Reed, Bryson Hicksonbaugh, and Shane Terrian all hit pit road together. And Shane Terrian, I love this call by the 9 to hit pit road, and I love it even more for Cody Reed, hitting this pit stop, trying to pit earlier, grab that track position. And now for those drivers are crossing their fingers and hoping that this pit cycle stays green until they're completely done, as our leader of Brian McCann now hits pit road as they go 3 wide of Wade, Hall, and the lap car caught into the outside wall.
Wow, so this is really getting interesting now, Sam. This changes everything. You got our leader pitting early. He's definitely going to be on 3 stops. All these guys that are pitting, they're going to be pitting 3 times total tonight, 2 more times from now. But other drivers, will they try and get to that magic number 50 and then get to 100 and man, make it on 2 stops? That'll really open it up. If this race stays green, it'll throw interesting information out there all night on who's going to be able to be first and second at the end of this race and get those points. It's going to be an awesome strategy to call now that we know that some of this field is deciding on definitely doing that 3-stop strategy.
Sarton, Nelson, and also going to be Johnson hitting pit road. Those 3 going to be the next mixture. We still have about half the field needing to make a decision of when do you want to hit pit road. And you got to also remember, there's a large majority of drivers that really gave up over 5 to 10 seconds over our leaders right from the rip, trying to save fuel. And they have to be also careful making your call out that you're entering pit road. Ken Campbell entering pit road for himself, and a few others joining in with Wade, Christopher Wade following in suit, and a couple of others continuing to figure out how to get back out on track. But you also saw there, getting on track is going to be just as difficult as getting into pit road. That is not a very safe pit exit that these drivers are dealing with when they're leaving pit exit to the apron and then back onto the racing surface. It is very narrow, and one small mistake could cost you greatly.
Oh, for sure, especially with the speed difference. If you come in there with fresh tires and someone's coming out there on older tires, and the difference in speed, that could really be something that would change up quick. Getting a caution like that could throw a wrench in all this strategy that these drivers are laying out. But look at Larry Yingling being way high up in that corner, missing that spot there. That's going to really give Brian P. Johnson a chance to get down here on this back straightaway and get close to him. Larry Yingling on those older tires, you're seeing a difference. Is Brian P. Johnson going to cut it down to the bottom, just turn? You can see how those fresh tires just really give him a chance to have no inabilities to pass and anything. It's just 3 wide here now with Bryson Hicksonbaugh.
Hicksonbaugh makes the pass as well, and you're feeling like Superman out there with the fresh tires, just able to make every move that you would like to make. And now with being 43 laps in this run, again, still some drivers might be thinking about pitting at lap 45, but I imagine the majority of the drivers that are still out on track, which is our top 11, they're all aiming for hitting that halfway marker and changing up the strategy of trying to cut down on a pit stop and pit around lap 50 to 51. 51, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable than pitting on lap 50, but all these drivers, it seems to be in their mind, stretch the fuel out as long as possible.
That's just going to be really great to see how these drivers are able to do that. Sam, you mentioned about some of these guys that from the beginning gave up 5 to 10, 12 seconds on time. But if you do that on the next one, that's 20 some seconds right there if you do it the second time. And then not to mention, you're out there on older tires, these other drivers are going to be so much further ahead once these drivers that didn't pit yet do pit. They're really giving up a ton of track time out there. Like you said, maybe a second and a half a lap. Now they will have the fresher tires by 10 laps once they do go into pit, but that's something they're going to really have to manage. If you do a two-stop race, you still don't want to be about 30 or 40 seconds back, because that might give a driver enough time to get down pit road and make that extra stop and then gain it back with the new tires.
Well, also the drivers that are, aiming for stretching out their fuel as long as possible. We've seen this the last couple of weeks of, a late caution in a pit cycle can change things dramatically on your track position. We've seen a lot in our second, usually our last pit stop, there's a late caution that can pop up, and staying out as long as possible can help you out with your track position. I think a lot of these drivers might be thinking about maybe later on in this race how they want to set themselves up as more drivers hit pit road. Ollie Fonseca going to make his stop, as well as John Forbes has made his stop, leaving us with 9 drivers yet to pit so far. And we are now inside the window we were given of 45 to 48 laps for fuel was the window of how far you could stretch your fuel if you were going full bore immediately, not even thinking about saving fuel. And now we're in that window of, did you save enough, or did you start saving too late? That's another thing that can kind of trip up drivers, is if they never knew the strategy of how to save the maximum amount of fuel, sometimes they make that decision too late and they can't even make it to that number that we've been circling.
Yeah, you would not want to be one of those drivers that only gets to about 48 or 49 and has to pit. And then you're on old tires, plus you still have to do the third stop. Definitely not a strategy that would work out for you at all. You would be giving up the old tires plus still having to make that extra stop. So these drivers right now who stayed out, they want to get to 50, 51, like you mentioned, to feel good. I think if anyone could get to 52, it would be really a miracle, but that would definitely make them feel really confident later on in the run.
Seeing Christopher Norris challenging with Cedric Hunter, these drivers for 5th place currently on track. Again, these are 2 drivers that have yet to pit, but Norris, also I think of Douglas Newbegin, Brian Noel, those drivers were really focusing on staying in the back and kind of were saving their fuel, saving their tires, not trying to be too aggressive at this moment, in a position where they're aiming to get to lap 51 marker, as the field has now entered into what we would call no man's land. This is where you've saved the fuel. Did you save enough, or did you have to pit sooner than everyone else? As you're seeing the drivers on fresh rubber just ripping the top. Some going to be dashing low, utilizing the rubber to gain all their track position and time back for those that have yet to pit. And looking at drivers that haven't pit yet and those that have, we're about to see a pass actually be made here shortly, as Christopher Norris and Cedric Hunter continue to duel back and forth just around they're about to be their pit window, as we're now 50 laps in, and a lot of these drivers have made it to that window they were looking for, expecting a lot of pit stops on this lap and the next. But for James Heater and Brian McCann, they're about to be making a pass of McCann catching up to a driver that's yet to pit so far tonight.
Wow, so that would definitely change everything. That really shows you how much new tires matter. Brian McCann being able to catch up to the back of the field. But Sam, lap 50, Ryan Kelly, he's hitting pits now. Nick Crawford, he also hit pits, so he was not able to stay out and get that lap led. Zachary Hall's going to be able to stay out and get an extra bonus point for leading the lap, but Nick Crawford chooses to pit with Ryan Kelly. So that's big for playoff implications. That was one point that Nick Crawford was not able to grab by not being able to stay out that extra lap.
Not able to grab and staying out for another extra lap. Zach Hall, Cedric Hunter, Christopher Norris, and Douglas Newbegin going to be the 4 drivers that were able to make it to the start of lap 52. And this is going to enable these drivers to have a little bit more of less saving on their mind moving forward, but staying out an extra lap. Cedric Hunter and Christopher Norris, this is great for Hunter. This puts him in a better spot looking in the points, making things a little bit more reasonable throughout the rest of this race for the 13. But now he's may need that caution to kind of salvage his track position at this time if you're Hunter and Norris.
That was really big for Cedric Hunter. He got the lap left, but he's probably going to have to pit now. Look at these guys right behind him. Is he going to be able to get down to the bottom and not have any issue? He's probably going to be pitting now. It looks like he's slowing down here, Sam. Going to get it down below that yellow line. Everyone behind him. No, he chooses to stay out. Still going to do another lap here. Like you said, maybe he's hoping for that caution to get that track position.
And this is incredible. We were given a window of 45 to 48 laps. We thought maybe they could save 2 to 3 extra laps, just make it to that 51 marker. And we've now seen Cedric Hunter stay out until lap 53. That'd be the start of lap 54. And Hunter is going to be forced into pit road either this lap or the next. He cannot go any further. But as you're seeing the 13, he is going to be staying out for another lap. And big thing to watch out for is going to be that middle section. That's your RPM gauge. And watch out, he's clutching way before he even enters the corner. This is looking like a little bit of shades of Kevin Harvick back in the old Atlanta days of some massive saving by the 13.
Wow, gonna stretch it past lap 54 here. I would think he's got to be coming in shortly. And also curious what exactly is his strategy is. Now he'll be able to at least get to lap 110, which means he'll have a 40-lap shootout at the end. Is he's now gonna back it down, Sam, get it down in there, get under pit road speed limit, get in there, get those 4 fresh tires and the all-important fuel.
I mean, it's incredible that he made it that far, but the amount of time that was lost for Cedric Hunter, that last lap that he just put down, a 33.7 second time. That is a full 1.5 seconds slower than Brian McCann, and at moments, 2.5 seconds slower than McCann. And McCann was about to pass Cedric Hunter before he even went into pit road. With how long the 13 stayed out there, I don't like that call. There's too much time he's giving up by staying out, even though it's brilliant how much time that he was able to stay out on track.
Definitely it shows that he's one of the drivers that can save the most fuel if it came down to a fuel race. But how much time did he give up? Like you mentioned, going to be almost nearly a lap down. That actually is showing now as a lap down. So that, if a caution was to come out now, that would really kind of ruin that strategy. You have to try and get the lucky dog or the wave around. As you see Brian McCann right here, our leader, able to cycle back through with a 3.8 second lead over Shane Therian. But look how close he is to Zach Hall and Larry Yingling, drivers that are right in front of him.
I mean, so close to one another. Hall is able to get his lap back. But for us, we do have to give a quick shout out to the amazing sponsor, who's also our race sponsor for tonight. That's Trophy Smack. TrophySmack.com is your place to go if you'd like to be getting yourself some great championship apparel, such as a championship ring, a belt, a championship trophy, and more. All can be found at TrophySmack.com. Go on over to their website. You can see there are plenty of pre-made trophies, and you can customize them to your own liking. And when purchasing your own Trophy Smack trophy, remember to use the promo code WSSR SMACK for 10% off. Thank you so much to Trophy Smack for being one of the bigger sponsors here for the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series. And for these drivers, pit cycle has completed for their first attempt at pit stops. But for us, we're going to take our first commercial break. When we come back, it's going to be second round of pit stops. For those that are aiming for the 3 stop, they're going to get ready for some more racing action at the Trophy Smack 225. But it's so far clean and green. We'll see if they can continue with that on the last race of the round of 11. We'll be back right after this.
Hey, this is Benjamin Nelson, your Season 7 WSSR Cup champion. I'd like to give a thanks to Roasted Gems Coffee, Trophy Smack, all the admins at WSSR, Snowy Desert Racing, everybody that tunes in to the Freaky Fast broadcast every week, including my family and friends, co-workers as well. And I am so honored to be able to hoist this beautiful trophy. I've never been more proud to be a champion.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Freaky Fast Broadcasting on your Wednesday night. Currently watching the WSSR Roast of Gems Cup Series. The Season 8 playoffs underway. Tonight's the last race of the round of 11 before we cut it from 11 drivers to 6. That will be part of our championship round. We'll race the last 2 races of the season to see who can grab the most points and take the Season 8 championship. One driver's already locked in to that championship round, being Benjamin Nelson after his win last week at Iowa. Tonight, though, strategy is all awry tonight as we are trying to figure out who has the best strategy. So far, the race has been clean and green. We've had one pit cycle already go through with drivers aiming for a 3-stop strategy, some going for a 2-stop strategy, and we're still trying to figure out which one would be the winning strategy at this moment. Brian McCann leads the way, but again, thank you for joining with us here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Justin Malarkey. And Justin, we talked about it to one another during that commercial break. Brian McCann looks to be in the favorable position for strategies, and the drivers that went for the 2 stops, it just looks like they gave up too much time, but they're going to do their best to gain all that time back.
We do feel confident. Brian McCann looking like he's in great shape, just obviously has tremendous speed. Every time we look up, it seems like he has a bigger lead. Even if they do slowly close on him, by the time they close on him, he's pitting, getting those fresh tires and pulling away and able to maintain that distance. He's really got that car gripped up and ready to go tonight. But like you mentioned, these drivers on 2 pit stop strategy. The first one that's on the 2-stop strategy that we feel confident that might have a chance would be Ryan Kelly. He had it about 20.5-second lead. Down to that he was behind the leader. It's now 16.6 seconds. But the problem is, Brian McCann's going to be pitting really shortly here. We're probably expecting to see him pit around lap 80. So he's going to get those fresh tires and then start gaining all that ground back for eventually for when Ryan Kelly makes his pit stop around lap 100. We're expecting. So it's something we're going to keep an eye on. Will Ryan Kelly's 2-stop be able to trump the 8 car, Brian McCann?
Also, other drivers of note to watch out for: Shane Terrian, Bryson Hicks, and Baugh. Those were the drivers that were part of the first group that pitted. Also, the other drivers part of that group, in 12th place, Cody Reed, who's in a must-win scenario coming into tonight's race, all hoping for a good run here tonight. But you see the 52 trying his best this far back in 12th place to gain every position possible. And, you know, it looks to be for Cody, the extreme early pit stop, not the best run for himself right now, but Nick Crawford starting to close in on the gap. Crawford, one of those drivers that was aiming for the 2-stop strategy here tonight and just missed out on leading a lap. He's going to have to cross his fingers that he gets to lead a lap this go around, but comes into tonight with a 9 points out of our top 6. So needed a good run was Crawford if you wanted to make our championship round as he races with Cody Reed through 3 and 4. These 2 drivers expect to see some great racing action between the 2 of them on Monday nights as the ISRC Truck Series is back to coverage this upcoming Monday as they took a week off this most recent Monday for themselves. As see Crawford make that pass, now going to be slotted up to 12th and moving forward. Other drivers trying to move forward and now moved up to 9th place. Ryan Kelly, the gap a lot closer than I think I was expecting it to be, but now down to just 14, a little bit less than 15 seconds is the 3. He's closing in the gap, Justin, but not in a rate that's going to be needed if he's going to find himself in victory lane. But again, he's trying to cut a pit stop out of this strategy compared to the 8 that's going to have to pit twice. So Kelly's going to be the closest, like you mentioned, but he's got a lot of work if he wants to make this strategy be better than the 8 machine who's looked like the dominant driver from the drop of the green.
He has a lot of the work to make up, but like we mentioned, he is slowly making that back. But the problem's going to be Brian McCann's going to be hitting pit road shortly along with the rest of the top running order. So that's going to be hard for the 3. But it will be really interesting to see how this race plays out. How much can the 3 save and still be fast at the same time and not give up any of that speed? Will he be able to get out there and get that win, or will one of his drivers in the top 3 positions now be able to maybe pit before Brian McCann and get that strategy going? But like you mentioned, it's going to be really close for all these drivers. But we have to talk about those two strategies, how about Cedric Hunter in that third strategy? He's going to be a driver that's probably going to pit at lap 110. So if a caution does come out, he at least is hoping that it comes out before lap 110, and he would definitely be the race leader, as we would expect everyone to pit. As we do have pit stops here, 63 and 9 going to race battle coming out of the pits. Look at 63 was really close there, Sam, being above that yellow line, something that you don't want to get a penalty for.
No, you do not, and you can see there on this shot how narrow the exit of pit road is. It is the apron to the racetrack, basically gone. You have to stay below that yellow line. If you cross over the yellow line before you hit the backstretch, you will be penalized. This is now Brian McCann hitting his stop into pit road. But Shane Tarian, Bryson Hicksonbaugh, they are the start of our green flag pit stops for round number 2 for the drivers that are aiming for a 3-stop strategy. Those that are going for a 2-stop strategy around lap 100 to 110 is their window that they're aiming for. This group, they're going to be making this pit stop, and then maybe think about their last stop around 110 to 120 will be their last go around. As move around to Cedric Hunter, talking about a very gutsy call. The driver that took it the longest out of anybody, and the main reason why, he was clutching at the end of that run. He's been out there for Cedric Hunter for 20 laps now out on track. And I kind of want to hop on board and take a look. Is he clutching even this early on into a run? Again, watch out for that big circle. That's your RPM gauge. Cedric's been clutching, and he is already clutching here early in the run. Looks like he's going for a similar strategy of trying to save massive amounts of fuel to stay out close to around the time that we're going to be seeing a lot of those other drivers, such as Brian McCann, Shane Tarian, make their final pit stop of the race.
That would be very interesting. Like you just said, I was about to bring it up myself. He's going to be pitting for his final pit stop the same time as we're expecting Brian McCann to come back in, and the rest of the leaders around 110. It'll be really interesting. Will Cedric Hunter be able to stay in front of him? Does he have something figured out that we can't figure out? Is his math different than what we're thinking up here? I can't wait to see what happens around lap 110, just to see if this strategy plays out. And if it does, it'd be amazing to talk to Cedric Hunter and see what he was thinking from the beginning of this race.
Well, I'm trying to figure out for Cedric's plan, because everyone else is going for the 2-stop strategy. Again, they're aiming, a majority of them pitted around lap 50 to 53 was their window for those that were solidified in the 2-stop strategy. Cedric pitted on lap 56, and each lap you stay out longer than everyone else. You're giving up a full 2 seconds, sometimes 3 seconds over the rest of your competition, that fresh rubber. And Cedric's not getting that advantage that we're seeing other drivers that went for the 2-stop on using their tires more efficiently, because Cedric's on older tires so much longer than everyone else. He's just giving up more time, and he's going to be caught. This strategy, the only thing I'm thinking about is Cedric's thinking, I'm going to stay on track, be on the lead lap longer than everyone else. So if there is a caution, at least I'm on the lead lap. That is the only thing I could imagine Cedric's thinking in this strategy, because if it's a winning call, this isn't it.
And that could be it. If the caution does come out, like you mentioned, he's on the lead lap and he would have that track position. And it would also trap potentially some other drivers a lap down who didn't get back around some of the leaders. It could be something that he could be going for. You never know. You get those late race cautions. Maybe he has a feeling that this race will get a little more chaotic as it goes. But right now it's so spread out that we're just not anticipating a caution. But you never know. It would take one driver to get loose. You see the battle on screen right here between the 67 and the 32. Those are 2 drivers that are on the 2-stop strategy.
As we're seeing Larry Yangling, Zach Hall, 5th place battling, and Hall, who's, again, one of those drivers on the 2-stop strategies, just 1 lap fresher tires than Larry Yangling. I think for Hall, this go around being a little bit more aggressive on trying to take these passes and positions. Doesn't want to lose too much time in the competition, because Brian McCann, crazy to think of it, McCann just pitted 5 laps ago. He is already about a little bit less than 10 seconds off of Zach Hall. So in the next, I would say 10 to 15 laps, Brian McCann might be passing these drivers right when they're thinking about making their pit stop to make their final pit stop of the day.
It would be really close when that happens. Like you said, 10 seconds, but at the rate of speed that they're closing in on these guys right here, they could potentially be right around each other when they're starting to make their final pit stop at lap 100 before Brian McCann. We expect him to be back in at like 110, maybe 115, depending on how far he wants to stretch it. It'll be interesting to see what happens. The thing is, those drivers will have a little bit older tires, so they'll have to hold off the fresh tires of the 8 if he does pit about 5 to 7 laps later than what we're expecting to see to 32 to 67, and guys that are on similar strategies to that. But right now, Brian McCann, you see him on screen, and you also are seeing Brian Noel right behind him. So he's in 12th position, running 12th, started 23rd. He's up a lot of positions there, Sam. About halfway through the field, he was able to gain on those spots.
Yeah, but Brian Noel and James Heater both just got passed by Brian McCann, and both they're about to be passed here even by Shane Terrian and the likes of Brian P. Johnson. The drivers that have already made their pit stops are passing those that are in for the 2 stops. We're already seeing a massive swing on who's going to be in a better positioning wise when this race starts to get into a better, clear picture with 40 laps to go, 40 to 30 laps to go. I think that's when we're going to fully see who's the top driver to watch out for. But based off of what we're kind of theorizing on where drivers are placed right now, where the math is kind of adding up on the different strategies, the times being given up to times being gained, Brian McCann right now looking to be the top driver to watch out for is McCann now setting up to get by Douglas Newbigging and just continuing to make the march forward. McCann in the top 10. Still one more pit stop left for the whole entire field. And McCann is already closing in quickly, but still looking at drivers that need to make their final pit stops. John Forbes and Ali Fonseca that are inside of our top 3. Those 2 drivers, they pitted slightly sooner than the window of making this race into a 2-stop strategy. They were just outside of that window, pitting sooner than lap 50. So the 11 and the 24, curious on the amount of fuel that they've saved up to try to get back on the strategy of everyone else that's still aiming for the 2-stop run, as Chris Stitz now makes his stop into pit road.
Yeah, you know what else makes this race so interesting with these different strategies is it's not only just about the time that you save on pit road by doing 1, 2 stops or 3 stops, or how much time you gain on the fresh tires. It's also how do you navigate through this traffic when you are on those new tires. Are you able to get through the traffic, pass them on a straightaway versus getting held up in the corner and maybe slowing down your lap? Because when you're on the fresh tires, it's hard to get around the guys that, even though you have all that extra speed, if you don't catch them in the right spot, it could really hurt your momentum. And then the same thing when you're on older tires. How do you let these guys on faster tires get by you and hope they catch you on the straightaway and pull alongside you and go by you? But if they get you in the corner and then you've got to run really high up in that 3rd or 4th lane to give them some room, before you know it, you're running another 3, 4, 5 tenths slower that lap, and you repeat that by 5 or 10 laps, and before you know it, that might be the difference on getting a winning strategy versus ending up in 4th or 5th.
So fun to watch these drivers making their marches here, there. John Forbes, Ali Fonseca, they were not able to make it to their window of maybe lap 95. Instead, they pit here on lap 90, as Brian McCann, with the pit stops that just were made, now slots the 8 into 4th place. See his driver cam focused and steady, and I've had his driver cam up on my side camera. This has been the face Brian McCann has had all race long. It has been focused, determined, and Justin, I don't know how many long green flag races you've been a part of going caution free, but Brian McCann's got a couple of strategies in of different leagues that I've seen him run, green flag runs. And this is exactly the way he does it every time. Straight faced, hits his marks, and staying focused at all times.
Got the face of a winner right now tonight. I love long green flag runs. I think Brian McCann's going to be a big fan of that. Hopefully we'll get to talk to him later and get his opinion on that. But nothing like a nice long green flag run for a driver. You're able to kind of clear your mind and focus in on your strategy. You don't got to worry about that caution maybe coming out and changing everything. But you never know when that caution comes out. As you see Brian McCann get a little loose there. You saw that cut back to the wheel. Heard him get out of the throttle there for a second. But he's doing what he needs to right now. You mentioned it, though. He caught Zach Hall before the pit stop. So he was able to make up that difference in time and now pull away from Zach Hall, a guy who's definitely going to be pitting here shortly in about 7 to 8 laps. We're expecting to see the 32 machine hit pit road. So Brian McCann was able to get around one of those guys on a different strategy. So now it'll be how do they hit these pit stops and how much time are they able to save and get in there and get those fresh tires on as fast as they can.
Are you willing to make the big moves that might cost you later on? Brian McCann still searching for a win for himself in this series. He's finished second once. That was back earlier in the season at Pocono. Hoping to get himself in victory lane here tonight is Brian McCann. Other drivers that hoping for a win, but may need some luck on their side. Nick Crawford in second place. Driver that's had success here in the past. Got the pole back in season 1 at this racetrack, but that was back when they were running the Gen 6 Cup car. Now here in the Gen 4, very different car. Really, these racetracks over the time span of all the way back in 2020 to 2024, the tracks have evolved based off the iRacing updates. But it's always cool to see drivers that have had past, success try to carry it over years later at a track that's changed so much.
Always about carrying over that success, especially when these tracks change so often. You gotta always figure out these updates and battle them. But right now, we're seeing Nick Crawford on screen. He's in second position. Nick Crawford's got to be thinking, I just am hoping Ryan Kelly pits a lap before I have to hit pit road so I can get that lap letter. You have to remember, the first time around, Ryan Kelly pitted and the 74 followed him in. He wasn't able to run any longer out there with his fuel strategy. Didn't feel confident pushing for that extra lap. Was not able to get that one bonus point. Let that could come down at the end of this race. It could have come down to 1 point. It wasn't too long ago we had a 3-way tie. And every point matters. So if the 74 is able to lead the lap here, we're going to find out shortly if he's able to lead 1 lap and Ryan Kelly pits before him.
Ryan Kelly still out on track, but for Nick Crawford, that lap lead, it's gone. As Brian McCann has now made the pass to slot himself into second place. Kelly just 2.7 seconds ahead of, oh, what a save from Ollie Fonseca, just drifting his way out of turn 2 for the 24. But seeing Ryan Kelly, he's trying to hit his marks. And again, lap 101. So 110 is the window we're looking for. But for Kelly, he is strictly looking at coming in either at lap 100, heading into lap 101, or on lap 101, carrying over to lap 102. Kelly is closing in on his pit window. But certainly a caution would not be the worst thing in the world that this 3 is hoping for, as that would place them in just outside the window. And a lot of these drivers just inside for some, just outside for others on stretching this race to the very end.
It looks like the 3 is going to have about a 1.5 second lead coming to the line, but Brian McCann, he's eating into it fast, Sam. I think for Ryan Kelly, if he's going to win this race, his goal is probably going to try to be to get to pit road either right before Brian McCann passes him or right after, so he can go in and get those fresh tires and try and gain as much time. And then hopefully he's going to be able to hold off Brian McCann. That's what the 3 is going to be thinking of. But look how fast McCann is. He's just coming already. He wasn't even in the picture about 2 laps ago, and now you see him in the picture. And before you know it, he's going to be right behind the 3 car. It might be a lap or 2 more on
As drivers trying to get by a lap car of James Kaufman, staying high for Brian McCann. Kelly continues to stay out. As McCann is closing in, Kelly knows that it's getting close to pitting time. A lot of these drivers recognizing the window that's about to be starting. And, with how close everyone is on track, for those that went for the 2-stop strategy and those that went for the 3-stop strategy, Justin, this gets into the mind games, because with Brian McCann this close to Kelly and both drivers recognizing, okay, we have 1 pit stop left before this race is over. When does McCann pit? Because he can pit slightly sooner if he wants to take away any advantage this 3 is looking for.
That is a really great point you bring up. The 8, he could come in right now when the 3 comes in. He could come in with him. If the 8 feels like he might be able to beat him on the long run, he might not want to risk letting the 3 get out there in those fresh tires and the 8 having to chase him down later on in the run. But as you see the 3 pull over right here, give plenty of room to the 8. Really respectful move. Maybe we might see the 3 even come into pit road here. Going to check it out. He's out of backfire. Doesn't look like he's going to be pitting yet, but no, here he comes, Sam. Going to bring it in, lap 100, so mark it down. How long will Brian McCann now stay out?
And Nick Crawford also going to be following suit. A lot of other drivers on the radio saying they're pitting this time. James Heater also going to be hitting pit road, but staying out for an extra lap. Shane Tarian as well as Bryson Hickson-Baugh. These drivers were the first to pit when they were aiming for the 2-stop strategy, even on pit stop cycles, starting for the first pit stop and the second. These 2 are the big ones that I'm circling up on. When would we see the rest of the field make their strategy call of pitting? Because now, with all the drivers that aim for the 1-stop, they're going to have that slight advantage for the next 5 to 10 laps if you continue on the strategy that we've seen so far this evening.
It will be interesting. How long will Brian McCann stay out? Still doing it though, Sam. That was a great point that you brought up. He could have pitted right with the 3 if he wanted to, but he chose not to. He thinks he's just going to be able to get those fresh tires and then march around them. He feels confident he'll have enough time to do it. But for these other drivers who need points, their strategies are almost out. If with this race getting under 50 to go here, everyone's going to be pitting soon. No caution, not going to have a chance to bunch everyone back up unless we do get that late race to caution. So what does a driver like Cedric Hunter do? Someone who we're expecting to be our last driver to pit, but he's not going to have the lead, not going to have a chance to get any more valuable points. So it's something that we're definitely going to see what happens here in about 7 to 10 laps to 13.
Currently, top 15 drivers still need to make their final pit stop. Cedric Hunter, as well as Christopher Norris. They are going to be forced into pit road here in the next 3 to 4 laps. They're going to have to pit Cedric Hunter, who we saw clutching 24 laps ago. 13 might be able to stretch it out another, I would say maybe 8 laps, 7 laps, crossing the line now. So Hunter's going to be in a spot where he's just trying to stay on the lead lap as long as possible until they maybe get a caution. But right now, we have not seen any signs of there being fair play this evening. But a late caution really could change everything up here, Justin. And that's, I think, the scare and kind of the strategy call for Cedric Hunter is we've had so many late cautions these last couple of weeks that maybe he was planning out for, okay, now I've gambled, I need that caution. And same for Christopher Norris. They need the caution so badly if they want to stay in a fight and a chance to go for a win. But Hunter, he relinquishes the white flag pit stop for Douglas Newbigin and Hunter and Christopher Norris. They will not stretch it out as far as they can go. Instead, they make the stop, and they're going to have a 45 lap run to go after the end of this race and see how much time and positions they can gain back, because again, we still have about 13 drivers still need to make their final stop of the night.
Those drivers are putting up their prayer, their Hail Mary, hoping that that strategy is somehow gains them the points they can get so that they can get into this final round and go battle at Charlotte and Kansas for the final 2 races, have a chance for that championship. But it's going to be hard for them. Different strategies all night, trying everything possible, just not sure if it's going to work out for them. We're going to know, though, in about 44 laps how this points battle ends. As you see the 32 trying to get around to 67 so he can get an extra point, but feeling good for the 32, like you mentioned earlier in the race, needs to be in at least 15th or better, 13th or better will definitely make him feel really good. So right now he's going to be in 16th place, but with making that final pit stop once it's cycle through, he should be in good condition. But as of right now, it's a little looking on the outside.
Looking on the outside for now, going to be working with as well. Trying to push Larry Yingling forward as they're going to be making their march to try to unlap themselves of Yingling, Hall, and plenty of others, as we've got 12th on back, at least 1 lap down. James Kaufman is 5 laps down. Ben Kinney called it a night, currently 86 laps down, and will not be showing any signs of getting back out on track. But Brian McCann still out there on course, and I threw out the window for the 8 and the rest of the drivers aiming for the 3-stop strategy. Justin, around lap 110 to 120 was kind of the window. I was expecting drivers to make that pit stop. What is your idea, though, of when it's just very last moment that you can hit pit road?
Well, the first time I think Brian McCann came in at 39, coming to 40, and then that next time it was 77, came in a little earlier. So this time it's 109, so he's going a little bit longer this time than the second one. It's interesting. He's probably doing the math on how much time is he losing to Ryan Kelly. As you see Ryan Kelly actually get around him now. So yeah, I wonder if that's going to tell a signal to the 8 to maybe go in and get those tires. Doesn't want to risk giving up any more time. But it looks like he's going to stay out another lap here, Sam.
Staying out another lap. Shane Terry will be the first of the drivers for the 3-stop. That's going to hit pit road. Chris Stitz follows in suit as well with the 9 machine a lap later. And the trend has been whenever Shane Terry and Bryson Hicksonbaugh, they've been pitting together. They don't this go around. And then Brad McCann pits the lap after those drivers. I'm curious if maybe McCann is looking out the window, trying to see, okay, where are certain drivers on track? Where can I kind of fit myself in a spot to make my final pit stop? Or maybe he's waiting for Bryson Hicksonbaugh to make that final go for himself. But there is a playoff implication moment right now. We're keeping our eyes out on a situation. Brian P. Johnson has been gone for over a whole lap from the session, and if Brian P. Johnson disconnects and is trapped a lap down or more, the 28th chances of moving on to the next round could be up in smokes, and this could give an opportunity for someone to steal a spot into our championship 6.
Oh no, you see him just going down the running order. It's still showing in the pits, but not back yet. 16th place. Wow, 17th, 18th, you just see him drop off the board there, Sam. That could be detrimental for his chances to get in. And such a driver to have in front is so great tonight. We hate seeing this happen for him.
Ryan Johnson was in a comfortable position to move on to our Championship 6. Our Season 1 champion for the WSSR might have just had a connection issue that takes away his chances. As Brian McCann now is going to exit out of pit road, Johnson is yet to fully disconnect from the server. He finally does now, and Johnson might be 4 to 5 laps down by the time that he finally gets back into the session.
Wow, we hate seeing that. So unfortunate for a driver who has so much speed throughout this race tonight. Had a chance to maybe even get that win, but so unfortunate. We have to hope he gets back in and has a chance to at least redeem himself over these final 40 laps. But it's going to be so hard, Sam, especially with no cautions, not a chance to maybe get a lap back or anything. So unfortunate for him.
This now gives a complete wide open opening for Shane Terry, Cedric Hunter, Nick Crawford. There's now hope left and breath being pushed into their sail. They've got a chance to make it into the championship round as pit stops are still underway for those that are making their final pit stop of the race. Half the field has already done their final pit stop of the night. Others are finishing off. Sean Forbes, Cameron Sarton, Ollie Fonseca, still needing to make their stops. Ryan Kelly in 4th, though, has already completed his stop for the night. Same for 7th place runner Brian McCann. McCann and Ryan Kelly, those are the two that we're circling up and watching out. Where will they be once this pit cycle fully completes?
And for all our friends out there who like to do math for fun, you can say it's about 10 seconds of a difference between Ryan Kelly and Brian McCann. So we're going to see when this race cycles through it and their running order cycles back to them being at the top is 10 seconds now. So what will it be as we now have 36 laps to go? Will there be enough time for Brian McCann to get up there and get that win, or will Ryan Kelly be able to take this race and get that momentum going into next week?
Update on Brian P. Johnson. He is starting to reconnect into the session, but currently 5 laps down. It might be up to 6 laps to 7 laps down when he gets back out on track and has fallen to 23rd position. So at this moment, Brian Johnson's going to need a lot of help of his other competitors to kind of fall off and have some bad runs, something go wrong to allow the 28 to stay in a championship hope for season 8. Otherwise, Johnson, who was having a fabulous season coming into tonight and thought he had a chance to maybe run for a championship, might have just gone up in smoke just because of one internet issue that popped up. And it's kind of like having a mechanical issue in real life. This is the virtual side of things, though. That's that random mechanical issue that just throws away a race.
That into the random engine failure, you can't predict it, don't know when it'll happen, but unfortunately it does. As you see a great battle on track between the 32 and the 67. Sam, I think these two have been glued to each other pretty much throughout the whole night. I swear anytime we have them on the screen, they're right there in that running order. It's really funny that they just seem like they cannot get separated. But two great drivers here battling for these positions on track, running 9th and 10th.
Larry Yingling, 3-time champ. Zach Hall, multiple regular season champion, trying to get himself into the championship run. Came in tonight for Zach Hall with a plus 15 over Shane Terrian, and for Hall here tonight runs in 9th place. Again, a top 13 finish, and Zach Hall will automatically make it into the next round and run for the championship. And with all the troubles that have now happened with Brian McCann, also seen the likes of Ken Campbell kind of having some struggles, and the fact that Brian McCann has been the favorite driver, I think this kind of gives an opening that we could be seeing 2 drivers that were inside of our top 6 coming into tonight could be bounced out based off how the trends have been here this evening. It is all up to who can find themselves in a victory lane. We're still waiting on about 4 drivers to make their final stop. Those are up front. John Forbes, Ollie Fonseca still need to make their final stop. Same for 6th place runner of Cody Reed, yet to hit pit road. Gonna need to hit pit road here in the next, I would say 4 to 5 laps for Cody Reed. Is gonna be as long as he can push it for the 52. And as well, back in 18th place, 1 lap down, Christopher Wade still needing to make 1 more stop here tonight. The rest of the field's already concluded their stops, and the favorite driver that we expect to be aiming for victory lane is Brian McCann, but he's still trying to catch up to Ryan Kelly, but the difference has now shrunk to, like we said, around 10.5 seconds to now just 3.5 seconds, the difference between the 3 and the 8.
It's amazing how fast that 8 machine is out there. He might even get a chance to get around Ryan Kelly before the front 2 pit, and it might throw a curveball in that strategy for Ryan Kelly. He might be thinking, I thought I had this race won, only doing 2 stops, but no, Brian McCann just so fast tonight, ultra fast. Just one of those drivers that was able to hit it. We talked about it around lap 18, 19. It seemed like he got around Larry Yingling and just started pulling away immediately. Just had this racetrack figured out from the beginning. Super fast night for the 8 machine. You see he's going to get around the 74 here on the outside coming out of turn 2.
He'll make the pass on the outside. Cody Reed has now woven his white flag. Hits pit road for the 52s in a must-win scenario to make the championship 6. And he'll now fall to being 2 laps down before this race is over. Less than 30 laps to go here tonight. And all the drivers here this evening are all hunting for a Trophy Smack trophy. If you'd like to get yourself a Trophy Smack trophy, again, they've got pre-made and customs. The last season, a custom trophy was made for Benjamin Nelson, who won the Season 7 championship. You can get your own custom championship trophy, ring, belt, and more at Trophy Smack. You might be curious on what the more is. Well, the more is called Wall Smack. Wall Smack is a metal plate that also has a wall-mounting magnet-safe system that allows you to place your Wall Smack picture that you can completely customize with your own photo that you like on it. Put it on the wall safely to show off to all those in the house, or you can get a stand, place it on your desk or shelf. Remember, when purchasing your Wall Smack or any item from Trophy Smack, to use the promo code WSSR Smack for 10% off. Thank you for Trophy Smack for being our trophy championship trophy, and also for 3 seasons being the championship ring for the WSSR for the last 4 seasons. The field is slowly marching to the end. John Forbes, Ollie Fonseca still needing to make a pit stop. They will not have enough fuel to make it to the end of this race, but they're going to try their best to continue to stay out there on course as long as possible. But the battle on screen, the 3 and the 8 machine, and Ollie Fonseca, the 8 of Brian McCann's been the fastest driver to watch out for, and the 8 is ripping the top. And this is the pass, what should be for the lead, but Ollie boxes in McCann to the wall, and now McCann's going to be standing to the outside. Ollie drops low. McCann once again tries to go to the outside row. Ollie blocks and defends further up, but cannot get to the outside 3rd row. McCann throttles up, exited 2, and just like that, the 8 is gone. Kelly, watching his victory just pull away.
8 going to give him no chance to the 3, making sure he gets around him before it got too close to the end, gaining back all that time. I can't believe it, Sam. It was 10.5 seconds like we talked about. He was just on a tear. He was clearly about a second to 1.2 seconds a lap faster. And you can see how much the gap already has grown. The 8 really has this track figured out tonight, just flying out here. As John Forbes yet to pit, it's 11 seconds for Brian McCann, but Brian McCann's going to be trying to chase down the 11 before he gets to the pits and see if he can get to him. That's going to be the next challenge for Brian McCann tonight.
Still out on track is John Forbes. Forbes has been just giddy up and go from the last pit stop in the 11 with a 10.4 second gap, and it's dwindling down quickly. Forbes is going to have to stay out as long as possible, and looking at the fuel run, it's going to be about 6 laps shy from taking it to the end. It's going to be close, but that is a lot of extra laps. That's counting if somehow John Forbes was saving dramatically like we saw the likes of Cedric Hunter did on that first pit stop window, where Hunter saved up to 56 laps, which was an extra 8 laps that no one else had done before.
It could be really interesting to see we're riding on board here right with him. You've seen that, like you mentioned, a big circle there. You see 7 now growing to 8,000 RPMs. Is he able to save gas getting into this corner? Is he on some strategy where he thinks maybe he would make it? Don't hear the car shutting off, Sam, but you said, hey, we got 22 to go. You never know. If he's able to manage this gap between Brian McCann, all he's got to do is get to the finish line before him, if it's possible. Not sure if that's going to happen, though. It would be crazy if that happened.
This would be the most incredible save, and as you can see there, that RPM circle isn't dropping down to 0. You're not hearing the engine completely shut off. So John Forbes is not in complete safe mode. He is still trying to run as quickly as he can, and that's why you had the gap built up so much bigger than what Ollie Fonseca had run down. Ollie, it looked like, was trying to save fuel on the other foot. John Forbes was just going as quickly as possible, and at this moment, Forbes is still in the lead, being hunted and hounded by some lap traffic on fresher rubber, and this 11's got to be a little bit uncomfortable in the fact that he's got to navigate around this traffic and kind of give space to them to take all these positions away.
The 11 get a little loose coming out of that corner. That tells me he's definitely in the gas hard, trying to come out of that corner and carry as much speed as he can and keep that 8 behind him. I mean, most likely hoping for a caution stand as long as he can. If a caution does come out, he'll pit. Everyone will pit. He'll be on new tires. He should have the lead. That could be the strategy that he's really playing tonight, try and get that late season win here in the number 11 machine.
Again, if you're just joining us, 20 laps to go. We have been clean and green all race long. The last time that WSSR ran at this track, Legacy, Kentucky, was back in season 6. They went caution-free during that race as well. They're trying to double down on a caution-free race here this season to get their second caution-free race of the season. And here tonight, it's looking to be primed for Brian McCann to be the favorite to watch out for, but there's a lot of other drivers still trying to have some of their best runs here tonight. Here's a driver we really haven't talked about a lot. Now it's going to be the 18 machine of James Heater back in 16th place, trying to close in the gap to Brian Noel and find a way to become the first driver 1 lap down, or at least get close, just in case there's a late caution that might put this 18 in the lucky dog spot. But the rest of the field, all in their minds, playoff racing for points. Benjamin Nelson was the only driver locked into the next round, where 6 drivers will race at Charlotte and in Kansas to figure out who can have the most points to win the Season 8 championship. Zach Hall came into tonight's race with 15-point buffer. Ryan Kelly had an 11-point buffer. Brian P. Johnson only had 7 points buffer to work with here tonight. Ken Campbell had a 4-point buffer, and Brian McCann was the bubble driver, just 3 points over Shane Terrian. Shane Terrian was behind by 3 points. Cedric Hunter was behind by 4 points. Nick Crawford was behind by 9 points. Christopher Norris, Cody Reed, both in must-win positions for the both of them. And as this race has progressed forward, there's been drivers that have kind of been at a bubble spot that are looking concerned. Brian P. Johnson having late internet issues, currently 5 laps down, back in 23rd position. Ken Campbell runs in 10th place, and Ken Campbell is in a position here, Justin, where it's a great run. It's a traditional run by Ken Campbell, but it might not be enough because Shane Terrian is running in 4th. That is in a perfect position for the 9 to steal one of these last positions into the playoffs.
The 15 will be hoping that maybe Ollie Fonseca can get up there and get around the number 9 machine to take a point away from him, or a guy like Bryson Hicksenbach, who now actually is in 5th place as Ollie Fonseca actually hits the pits, as we talked about it. So Ken Campbell, he's hoping someone else is able to get around the 9 machine in 3rd place there, Shane Therian, try and get those points. But you know what? All of that he needs to do, Ken Campbell, is try and get around some of the guys in front of him and gain back some of those points and get back in there, because we know he could be fast and he could have a chance to go to those final 2 races and have a great showing. I do want to bring up the 79 of Benjamin Nelson, a driver who we know is locked in. He's the only one that did not have to worry tonight, Sam. You talked about it earlier in this race. He had some pit road issues last week, some pit road miscues some weeks beforehand, some uncharacteristics driving from him. Not used to seeing him make those mistakes, Sam. But in next week, you're not going to be able to make that mistake, or the following race going into the final race. Can have a slip up. Tonight when he was going into pits, I just noticed he slid through the box just ever so slightly, had to back up. Didn't really matter in tonight's race with it being caution free and so spread out, but you get a late race restart and get in there and slide through that box later on in the race next week or the following one at Kansas, that could really cost you the championship. So something you definitely want to get cleaned up.
Yeah, certainly you do want to get cleaned up. Benjamin Nelson, also want to give you huge kudos to that 79 to start the end of the line because of the miscues and contact that was unnecessary and unsafe re-entry on track at Iowa. 79 had to start at the end of the line here tonight, up to 4th, and might have a chance to grab 3rd with how quick 79's been running. But as we were talking, Their Justin pit stops were made with Ollie Fonseca. John Forbes is now gifted to the lead to Brian McCann in the 8 machine. And with these laps slowly ticking away, 13 laps to go here tonight. Brian McCann with a 6-second advantage over Ryan Kelly, and it continues to grow. This has been a perfect race for the 8 machine as he continues to try to pull away with each lap that clocks down.
Brian McCann, he has really, truly dominated this race tonight. I mean, if it wasn't for the pit stop cycles, he probably would have been leading all but those first 17 laps. Just a driver who really put it together. Once he got out front, there was no touching him. He just was gapping the field and pulling away from everyone, did everything he needed to do. Some of these guys tried different pit strategies, but he was able to just work through all those scenarios and just really hammer away from everyone. I mean, he's built up an almost 7-second lead now over second place, and it's eventually probably going to be Shane Therian who gets around Ryan Kelly, and it might even go back to 8 or 9 seconds, which is just a huge, huge win if he's able to hold on for these final 12 laps. But on iRacing with these same setups, to get a big win like that, multiple seconds from the guy behind you, that's so impressive. So it really speaks volume for Brian McCann tonight.
Certainly will be. 11 laps to go, and one of the best battles on track. It's about to be for second place. Ryan Kelly, Shane Therian, Benjamin Nelson. They are all on top of one another with lap traffic mixed and mingled in between. Chris Stintz trying to hold back the 9, and it's given a chance for Nelson, who started back in last place, might have a chance to even take second with the pace we're seeing for the 79 machine. Therian's trying to aim for a top 3 finish here. Again, for Therian, his goal, stay 4 positions or more ahead of Ken Campbell. Campbell right now, no driver is close to him at the moment, but Campbell is stuck in 7th. Therian needs to stay at least in 3rd, if not move up to 2nd and hold that 2nd position with 10 laps to go. It's still a mark of who might be in or out because of the fact that Brian McCann, who came in as our bubble driver, just a 3-point advantage coming into tonight and back to win this race. If we stay clean and green, the 8 could lock himself in, and Campbell could be bounced out, and Brian P. Johnson's in a tough spot where he might be bounced out as well.
Going to be really close, but like you mentioned, at 79, he's coming. He might get around to 9 here, but then the 3 is going to be right there. Will the 9 be able to get back around to 3 and at least make that be a net? No loss, no gain. The 79 passing, but the 9 is going to have to do his job and get around to 3. As he sees, he gets really high coming out of the corner there, Sam, but he's able to pull it back down in front of the 79 and hold him off for another lap as we have now 8 to go.
Big picture. If someone's in Shane's ear, he's got to let him know, hey, yes, you're running with Ken Campbell. Campbell is the original driver you're focusing on. But at this moment, you just have to be the furthest up ahead of all drivers that are outside looking in. Brian P. Johnson stuck in 22nd position. Where you run, you're into the next round and running for a championship. Don't throw this race away thinking that you have to beat Ken Campbell, because Campbell's not the driver you've got to focus on. Oh, no, Troll behind. Stintz gets spun. 7 laps to go. The late caution. This could change everything.
Oh, 7 laps to go. We were not expecting it. We really thought Brian McCann had this race won. Everyone's going to be hitting pit road. I can't see anyone staying out, but you know what, Sam? Someone out back is going to probably have to do that to try and have a chance to win if they're not in. Look at the replay right here. You see the 17 spinning on the front straightaway. Unbelievable. Who would have thought this? 7 to go here.
And you're going to be seeing Chris Stintz, 34-lap-old tires. He's going to be caught by Bryson Hixenbaugh on 31. We're going to see the rear end kind of slide up for the 17 and then kind of just slow down dramatically off the exit of the corner. Hixenbaugh rear ends the 17, and that spin with oncoming traffic, that sets us up with a possible inside the regulation green, white, checkered with 7 laps to go on the caution coming out. This is going to be a shootout to see who's making it into the championship, because now Brian McCann, you thought you were safe, secure. Not going to happen. The late caution pops up, and a driver that is happy to see it, Cedric Hunter, we talked about how his strategy was so off. It was not where he wanted to be. The 13's back in the mix for a chance to try to make all these passes, get in front of Ken Campbell, and make his spot for a chance into our championship 6. But first, pit stops. You got to be clean here. This is going to be your last stop of the night. Don't make a mistake and lose track position.
Will anyone take 2 tires? Will anyone risk staying out? We're going to find out really shortly here, but I can't see anyone really taking 2 or 0 tires. Sam, I think 4's got to be a way to go, but with so few laps to go, what will you do? These drivers are right now thinking strategy. As you see the 8 machines getting right sides right there, we're expecting to see the lefts go up too and get those as well.
And drivers expecting to take 4 tires in fuel, but 1 driver does stay out. John Forbes stays out. Shane Terrian takes 2. Nelson takes 2. Crawford takes 2. Remember, Nick Crawford also needs a big gain and needs to see the likes of Ken Campbell or Brian McCann majorly slip up, and the 74 could be having a chance to race for a championship. And Brian McCann, from an absolute win in the grasp of his hands with 7 laps to go, the caution comes out, and now he's trapped in 5th place. The win is no longer in his hands, Justin. He's got to fight and claw to make sure that he still has a chance to fight for a championship.
And listen, everyone out there, John Forbes, while he did stay out on old tires, they're not that old. Remember, he just pitted recently ago. I mean, those tires maybe just are heated up nice where they got that nice grip and they can fire off. All he's got to do is just stay in front of these guys for a couple laps. He's going to have a buffer with guys behind him on 2 tires. It's going to be cold right side tires, hot left side tires. Maybe they don't have the grip going in the corner. It's going to be a really interesting restart here. Maybe we get multiple restarts. But John Forbes, he could be in good shape here, Sam.
And looking at the drivers that are going to be on the lead lap, some are taking the wave around, the likes of Cody Reed, John Forbes, Cody Reed, Ollie Fonseca, and Chris Stitt's going to be taking the wave around for themselves, trying to stay on the lead lap. And then we've got at least 17. They're absolutely on the lead lap, getting service done. Christopher Norris will be gifted the lucky dog. But Ollie Fonseca, he's happy for a chance to get back and for, needing a quick caution to get some fresh tires for drivers that are further back in the field. But John Forbes, this 11 machine, it's going to be a 11-lap difference on tires. And the way we've seen these tires fall off, the degradation so far this evening, I would say this 11's a sitting duck, and he's banking on a great restart and some quick cautions that might give a chance for the 11 to stay up front.
It will be really interesting. Definitely old tires. We've seen the difference. We've seen drivers run about 1.5 seconds faster on newer tires. The question will be, how hard was the 11 pushing after that? His strategy was he just hoping for a caution to come out. Maybe he wasn't pushing as hard, but he's got to cool them down if he's going to have any chance to hold them off. I'm expecting these guys to get around him. We saw it last week at Iowa. We're probably going to see it again tonight. Drivers on these new tires being able to make up that ground. But these guys that took 2 tires, will Brian McCann be able to get around him? Will he be able to get that win that he felt like he probably earned by dominating this race so much tonight? But the late race caution changes everything, Sam. You never know. It always brings something to fun for us to talk about here at the end when you have a late race caution unexpectedly.
Shane Terrian, driver outside looking in, needing massive points. Nick Crawford, who's going to be restarting in 3rd. A win locks him into the championship. He was 9 points out coming into tonight. Cedric Hunter, 4 points out coming into tonight. He's back in 9th. He needs a lot of help and needs to go into overtime. But this is the scenario, folks. We are still inside of regulation. This is going to be a green-white checkered. We're going to have 2 laps to finish out this race. If under this first lap, when we go green, we get a yellow flag, we are heading to overtime. But if we get the white flag, it's all about who crosses the line first and who will be running for a championship. Thank you for joining with us. This is the Trophy Smack 225. John Forbes on the oldest tires. Brian McCann thought he was going to get his first WSSR win. Not the case. He'll have to sit back and wait for another chance unless he somehow finds an opening and a gap. But for the drivers up front, this is it. Who will be making the championship 6? Benjamin Nelson, the only driver locked in into this restart for the championship. We're back underway. Shane Terrian already a little bit of a move. Nick Crawford messes up on the restart, and they're already going to be having 3 wide back in 4th place. Almost 4 wide get down into turn number 1. John Forbes is gone. Shane Terrian up to 2nd. Nelson feels confident, but Crawford with the misship that might throw away his chance.
74 definitely did not need that for his chance to get those max points. Look at the 8 though, and get underneath them, trying to make up that ground there on those 4 tires. But like you mentioned, the 11, he fired off, got a great restart, snickered the whole field. Hopefully, he's hoping to get the white flag here coming up and try and get this race won. Coming to 1 to go.
White flag is out. It's your Roasted Gems white flag for the field. John Forbes leads the way by over a little bit under half a second. Rest of the field trying to slot their way in. McCann hoping to continue to stay forward. He cannot afford for the 8 to get caught up in a wreck, but John Forbes took the gamble, took the chance. They're racing hard for second, but John Forbes on the exit of turn 4 will play spoiler and find himself in the victory lane here in the WSSR. Forbes wins the Trophy Smack 225.
Wow, the 11 takes it home, gets that win. Wow, that strategy worked out for him. We thought maybe those tires would definitely get around him, but he fired off so good. He had the restart of his life, able to come home, get the win. Congratulations, John Forbes Jr., getting the W tonight at Kentucky.
And then the calculators get pulled out. Who's in, who's out, and it looks to be an already absolute Brian P. Johnson because of his internet failure. The 28 looks to not be having a chance to run for a championship, and it looks to be Shane Tarrant's going to take that spot. Everyone else looks to be settled in where they need to be, but we're going to wait for confirmation because Zach Hall is pretty far down on the points leaderboard as John Forbes gets to have his fun. We wait for the math and the calculations to come in. When we come back, we'll talk to our top 3 and a spotlight driver, get their thoughts on tonight. What a win, what a finish. The Steeler, John Forbes, enjoying the victory. We'll be back right after this. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Freaky Fast Broadcasting's post-race show for the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series Season 8 playoff action. A thief in the night for round 11, race 2. John Forbes in the 11 machine took a gamble, took a risk, and at the end of the day, the 11 machine was able to get the win. John, it's Sam and Justin up in the booth. How are you feeling, and how the heck did you get that win at the end of the night?
Yeah, I really was not expecting to be up here going into like the last 10 laps. My strategy through the race was just run hard and just drain it dry of fuel while running 100%. And I was hoping we were going to get a caution there. Me and Ollie were on the same strategy. We were hoping a caution was going to come out, and then the tank was dry, and we're like, well, I guess our race is pretty much over. We're going to be sitting way back for like 15 to 20. That's probably where we will finish here. And then a caution came out, which was very unexpected after how the whole race went. So everyone's telling me like, no, don't just come in, take rights. Like the fall off's too much. And I was like, well, I got nothing to lose. I mean, I'm sitting here in 13th. I might as well just do the opposite of everyone else and see what happens. And the clean air paid off. It really didn't get any competition there. I think I jumped the restart zone a little bit. I didn't really know where it was, so yeah, I'll take the penalty on that, but it paid off.
John, congratulations on the win. It was just fantastic to see you up there driving on those old tires and holding off for everyone behind you. You mentioned the restart. You had such a great restart. Was that where you were really putting the emphasis on? You're like, if I could get a really good restart here and beat those guys, I think I could hold them off on these old tires. Is that what your main strategy was there for those final 3 laps?
Yeah, I really didn't know how well I was going to compare to everyone else, so I was just figuring like, okay, we'll get through 1 and 2, and it's either going to slide right up the track, and I'm going to go to the back, or we might have a shot here. And then went on the restart and got a bit of a lead there. So I was like, all right, okay, let's see if we can hang on to it. And yeah, the next 2 laps went by and they didn't really get any closer to my mirror. So I was like, all right, the last lap was pretty fun, just seeing everyone back there a little bit. And I was like, all right, just gotta keep it clean and we'll wrap this thing up.
And that's exactly what you did, wrapping it up. I mean, John, what a season it's been. A lot of ups and downs for yourself. Coming away with a win here with just 2 more races left in the season. How are you feeling you're going to be able to take this momentum into these final 2 races of season 8?
Yeah, obviously I wish I was still in the playoffs, but with that battle with Jason Tamer a couple weeks ago, I just let my emotions get the best of me that night and got into him and really ended the run for myself there. So I only have myself to blame on that. But after that, it's almost been fun to come out here and run, not have the pressure or anything, and just be able to try different strategies. Because I feel like when you're in that playoff picture, you don't want to be that guy that's doing something different. And that's obviously what got me the win here tonight. So I've just been able to open up the strategy book a little bit and just play my cards a little bit different. So it's been fun to do that, and I'm really excited to do that in the next 2 races as well.
Well, John, again, congratulations on this win, your second WSSR victory for yourself. And now the floor is yours for any shout outs. I know people in the chat were rooting for you to get in the victory lane, and you did so. And now the floor is yours.
Yeah, I just want to thank obviously you guys for hosting these things. It's always a lot of fun to go back and rewatch and hear the calls. I want to thank Strike On Designs for the awesome scheme. I thank everybody, friends and family watching, JJ Performance Mods, eFlex Fuel, and everyone else that's tuning in tonight.
Well, that will be your victor for tonight's race. The Trophy Smack 225 is going to be going to John Forbes in the 11 machine. Congratulations, John. Enjoy it, and good luck for these final 2 races of the season.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
You too, as we go now from victory lane to second place to a driver I think is going to be excited with where he finished and due to where the points are lining up for himself. We have second place finisher in the 9 machine, Shane Tarian. Shane, you come away with a second place finish. How are you feeling after the way this night kind of ebbed and flowed throughout this evening?
My hands hurt a lot. I feel good. I mean, I feel like I'm not sure how tight the points were, but I think if Brian didn't drop out, I may not have made it. I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to look, but yeah, this is great. I didn't know what to expect when I was doing practice. Like I have no speed.
Shane, congratulations on your second place finish there. You mentioned about being tired. I know you're one of those drivers that run on the gaming pad joystick versus the steering wheel. Do these long runs, does it get you a little more tired than what it would be on a steering wheel? Is it a different wear and tear on the muscles?
It stiffens the hand, specifically the left hand where I turn and brake and all that. Especially a car that's loose. I'm basically death gripping the controller, so that's what makes it harder. But yeah, fortunately my vibration stayed on all race. If I'm having issues, my vibration goes away, then I can't feel the car getting loose. And I thank God that didn't happen because I would have probably not finished second tonight.
Well, you do finish second. You were curious on how the points are going to line up if, Brian V. Johnson didn't finish where he did. But it was very close between yourself and Ken for that last spot, and it was a 1-point difference. And Shane, you will be in the playoffs, continuing on for a championship. You have made the final 6. Congratulations on that. And with knowing you're in the championship 6, we've got 2 races left heading for this field. We're going to Charlotte and Kansas. What's the confidence level knowing that you've got 2 more mile-and-a-half treks you got to deal with?
I have no idea. I've had a very up and down season this season, so I'm just gonna go in there and expect the worst, so I'm not disappointed.
And that's one strategy to go in with. Shane, congratulations on second. And before we officially let you go, the floor is now yours for any shout-outs.
Yeah, I'm just gonna shout out Yellow Controllers, my Carolina Reaper teammates, and then the painter paints all my cars, Matt Muir, and you guys for broadcast. I'm gonna have to go back and watch a couple of I don't know if you guys caught it, but there's a few times I almost destroyed the wall. So I want to know if you guys caught those.
We certainly were bouncing around with a lot of different drivers. I think we might have missed a couple of those big scares, but we're happy that you made it through it, and congratulations on making the championship 6, and good luck these next 2 races.
Thank you.
Well, from second place, we go down to third to a driver that had a very unique night compared to others, had to start in the back, work his way forward, and takes a third place finish. We got Benjamin Nelson with us. Ben, I mean, you got your win last week. You knew you were locked into the championship 6. You had to start in the back. How are you feeling coming away with a top 3 finish at the end of the night?
It was pretty good. The main goal for tonight was just to keep my nose clean, and I did that, so mission accomplished there. But I would have liked to have seen that caution a little earlier in the race so I could actually have a chance to make my spots up. But it didn't happen, and sucks for Brian, though. McCann, both Brians, they had bad luck. Johnson disconnecting and then McCann losing the race on the caution, but I know what that's like, trust me. That restart was a little interesting too with the 11. I don't know if he knew where the restart zone was, but it is what it is. We come away with a top 3. It's really that's great considering how I started dead last, I think. So no cautions to really catch up until right at the end. That's not bad, and no incidents to speak of. So I'll take it.
Ben, congratulations on third place. You obviously are one of the elite drivers out there. You're fast everywhere you go. I know we got 2 races to go here. What are you expecting in these next 2 races, and what do you need to do to make sure you go out there in Kansas and really get down there and have a chance to win that race? I know when we talked to you last week, you mentioned about getting down on your comfort level of running the outside wall. Have you been getting any practice there, trying to make sure you're able to run that wall if you need to?
Not quite yet. It's still isn't Kansas the championship race? I believe it is. Yeah, so I'll definitely do that the week of, but I got some Road to Pro commitments to do too. So that's a little bit more important than a race that's 2 weeks away. But yeah, I definitely need to work on that. The tire wear at Charlotte's going to be really immense, and that's going to be a big talking point probably. I would imagine. So going to be hard to keep the tires on it for sure. Last season I got burned there by not pitting on the only caution of the race. So I'll keep that in mind. I don't know if that's going to happen again, but it's so easy to do that at Charlotte. Your tires just go away without you even realizing it. You're like, oh no, they're fine, but no, you need tires almost every chance you get. So keep that in mind, and we'll head on to next week.
Well, Ben, we cannot wait to see how you're going to perform, making it to the Championship 6, trying to go back-to-back. We hope for the best for you, and before we officially let you go, the floor is now yours for any shout-outs.
Okay. First and foremost, got to give a shout-out to my Aunt Marilyn. All my family that's watching, all my coworkers, my friends. You guys for the great podcasts you put on. It's a lot of fun to go back and watch these. And the league admins, my teammates at Snowy Desert Racing. Maconi Setup Shop, too, for supporting me and RTP. Yeah, just everybody that supports the league, Trophy Smack, Roasted Jim's Coffee, title sponsor. Can't thank them enough. They do a lot for us, and hopefully they stay on board for next season.
Well, that will be your third place finisher in the 79 machine, Benjamin Nelson. Ben, congratulations on a third place finish, and good luck going for that second championship starting next week.
Thank you.
Well, we move from second place in our spotlight driver, going to be the driver that finishes in fourth. We have the 8 machine, Brian McCann. Brian, I know this finish kind of is going to be irking at you, knowing that it was just in your grasp until 7 laps to go. But how are you feeling overall with your performance, with how well the strategy came together and how dominant you looked out there tonight?
Oh, I'm feeling good. I'm not upset about that. We had a fast car all night and just took off, and I think there's something like a 7-8 seconds lead there. So that was amazing to have that. And I was just out there cruising, and then the yellow comes. But we don't really need to win that race. We just need to win the next 2. So that's what I'm got my sights set on.
Brian, congratulations on at least getting fourth. I know you had such a fun, fast car tonight. We've all been there where the cautions just kind of burn you. Unfortunate that it happened to you. But going to Charlotte next week, track that will have tire wear definitely like tonight. It seems like you definitely had the tire wear figured out. You were just consistently strong from beginning to end all night, just dominating. Do you think you're going to be able to carry that momentum through next week to Charlotte, which is going to be really important getting it in Kansas?
Oh, I hope so. Charlotte's my home track, so I got a lot of laps on it and got a couple notebooks on it too. So I think I know what to do. But the competition in this league, man, it's strong. So I've been working all season and just trying to get up to the pace of everybody else, and hopefully, we can pull one out.
I mean, Brian, talk about the competition. It's been awesome to watch you develop also and keeping up with the competition all season long. Is there a driver that you're kind of circling up, or is it just the whole group of everyone that made it to this championship round that you're focusing on for these final 2 races?
I don't want to focus on any one person or anything, but I will say I truly think anybody in the top 6 going into it has a chance, a real good chance. I mean, heck, the top 10 most races, anybody's got a good chance of winning one. So some luck's going to have to come out. Strategy, you got to have all of it to get a win in one of these tracks here in this league.
Well, Brian, you're certainly someone that we know, like we saw tonight. It's got the speed. Hopefully the luck turns your way. But before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any shout-outs.
Yeah, my family, you guys for doing the broadcast, amazing broadcast. League admins for putting us on. Race Control, keeping an eye on us. Sponsors for making it happen. And drivers, big shout-out to the drivers showing up every week. I enjoy it. Thank you.
Well, that will be the 8 machine of Brian McCann coming away with a top 5 finish in 4th. Congratulations on your performance here tonight, and good luck aiming for that championship starting next week.
Thank you.
Well, from our interviews, we get ourselves prepared to take a look at our unofficial results here tonight. As the field certainly had a wild one, went caution-free until 7 laps to go, and we had 1 caution, 1 final restart. And the drama mounted up for John Forbes to hold off, got the restart that was needed, built up over a half a second gap over Shane Terrian, who was never able to get that positioning back with those cold tires. But Benjamin Nelson will then take 3rd after starting all the way back in last. The driver that dominated all night long going to finish in 4th for the 8 machine of Brian McCann. Ryan Kelly, who also was a very fast driver here this evening, going to take a 5th place finish. Nick Crawford did not get enough points. He'll finish in 6th. Ken Campbell making it in by just the slimmest of margins. 7th place finish here tonight. Cameron Start will take a top 10 run for the 99. Bryson Hickson-Baugh with a 9th place finish and finishing our top 10. Cedric Hunter, not enough points for the 13. He will not be running for a championship next week.
Douglas Newbigging in 11th, Anthony Gaudio in 12th, Brian Noel in 13th, and Larry Yingling going back to 14th after he was running up front early in this race. And then going to be 15th, James Heater, Zach Hall back in 16th, like you mentioned, Sam, just dropping there towards the end of the race, unfortunately for him. Christopher Norris, Ollie Fonseca, 17th, 18th, Chris Diss, Cody Reed, then going to be Chris Wade, Brian P. Johnson. We know about the trouble with the internet. James Coffin, Ben Keeney going to be there in 24th position, our first driver to exit the race tonight.
Yeah, I hate to see Ben get knocked out. Same for Brian, calling it a night, but pretty simple and easy. Into tonight's race, we had 11 drivers that entered into this round. Only 6 were eligible to race for a championship starting next week. And those 6 drivers that will be racing for a championship already locked in before the night even started was Benjamin Nelson. With enough points, Zach Hall will now move on to the next round. Same with Ryan Kelly, Brian McCann, and also we've seen ourselves with Ken Campbell taking the final spot. Shane Terrian balancing out Brian P. Johnson. Because of the internet issues, Johnson will not be running for a championship. It's going to be a tough pill to swallow for the 20. I know he is frustrated with the fact that his internet went out. And joining with Brian, also not going to be running for a championship, Cedric Hunter, Nick Crawford, Christopher Norris, and Cody Reed. Their playoffs are done for Season 8.
For Season 8, their chances are over, but it will be great to see the top 6 battle for these next 2 races. Charlotte's going to be such a fun race next week. I can't wait. And Kansas, we know, is always a great race. What a fantastic venue to have your championship battle at. I mean, we can see those drivers running top, bottom, middle, all race, battling for the leads. It could come down to the final lap. It's going to be a great next 2 races, Sam.
I cannot wait to see how this is going to be going down moving forward, but this is going to be a fun one here tonight as we get to take a look at our upcoming schedule tonight for the WSSR. We'll finish out this week as the Shoney's Doghouse Cup Series will be taking the week off for this week, and can't wait to get back to watching how those open setup next-gen cards are going to be tackling on Thursday nights. But we will be back for more coverage of Monday Night Racing for the ISRC Truck Series. They will be back for more racing action Monday night. Going to be fun watching the trucks tackle their way forward. Tuesday, it's continuing in their chase playoff as the BRB Buck Kicker Series on Tuesdays continue their way forward as they're going to be racing at Homestead for their next race. Then we're right back here at the start of the championship round. 2 races are left. Whoever can grab the most points under these next 2 races will win a championship for the WSSR. And next Thursday, Shoney's Doghouse Cup Series will be taking another week off. We'll be back in 2 weeks for the Shoney's drivers. Cannot wait for Thursday again. Those guys have been putting on a great show. But that's what's coming up next week. But for tonight, what a race to figure out who was making the championship round. And ultimately, it was John Forbes. Grace just took a risk of staying out on old tires, got the caution that was needed. And Justin, any final thoughts? What a great night of racing we got to see here at Legacy, Kentucky.
Well, the final thought has to be what we heard from the 11 say. He thought when he made that pit stop that his race was over. But little did he know, a late race caution was going to change everything, and that just proves if you're sitting on the fence thinking about you wanting to get into iRacing, want to maybe get out there, just go for it because you never know. You got to get out there and be out there and have a chance, and it worked out for the 11 tonight. He wasn't sure what was going to happen when he made his pit stop, but he went in there, got those tires, came out, was still on the lead lap. The caution came out. He was able to then hold off the rest of the field on the older tires. It was so impressive. So it just proves never give up, can't quit in this. But first, you just got to get out there and keep doing it.
What a run there tonight for these drivers. Who's going to take the championship? And it is going to be a fun battle to watch. 6 of the top drivers for Season 8 are now slotted in to race for the championship. But for us, thank you so much for joining here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. For myself, Sam Dyer, for Justin Malarkey, for Robert Warrior Jr., and everyone else here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, thank you for joining with us on your Wednesday night. It's going to be a while before our next broadcast, but it's going to be on Monday. Do not want to miss out on it as the drivers for the ISRC ISRC Truck Series get back to racing action after their off week. We cannot wait for it. Monday is going to be our next Freaky Fast broadcast. We'll see you then. But for tonight, have a good one. What a race and a championship run. Cannot wait for it. Next week, it's going to be the start of the championships. Monday, our next broadcast. We'll see you then on our next Freaky Fast broadcast.